I've created like a wee logo just called First View Studios, which is like a kind of it's like a homage to like my first street that I lived in. So it's just like kind of wee, just a wee attempt at professionalism. It's like
Oh yeah,
something
yeah,
along those
yeah.
lines.
You could spend 20 minutes on a drawing, post it online, and get a mountain of praise. Or you could spend months or even years working on an indie game, release it, and get ripped apart in the reviews. That's just the nature of the industry. Every frame of an indie game is an expression of these indie developers. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Indie Neighbor. I'm sitting here with Liam. He's working on a classic style JRPG game named Nowhere and Forever. And go ahead, Liam, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Liam. I'm a standalone developer from the UK, and just like Nate's been saying, just kind of working on like my own JRPG. I'm not a professional developer or anything like that. It's just it's a project that I've been wanting to do for a long time. Just make a game, like tick the bucket list kind of deal, so to speak. So I've been working on it probably about the last 2 years, just sinking every bit of spare time that I've got into it, whether that's learning how to do coding bits, whether that's doing story for the game or tweaking bits, just learning as I go, really. It's kind of when you're a one-man band, you've kind of got limited scope to kind of work with stuff. So it's been fun. It's actually been really fun, if stressful at times, but it's been really good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it looks great. As far as itch games go, as far as, as a solo guy, like it's looking amazing. So,
Oh,
you
thank you.
don't sell yourself short by any means. Um, yeah, continue if there's if you want to add on to it.
Yeah, no, just gonna say it's one thing that's challenging. I mean, you know what it's like on the internet. Like people, like one of my worst habits is I shouldn't read so many forums that I do. Like like the Reddit posts and like the RPG forums stuff, because people say things like, "Oh, I don't use the default assets" and things like that. But I think when you're starting to kind of build your projects and things, you need to like walk before you can run, so to speak.
Hmm.
So like what you may find, like, if anyone does is gracious enough to check it out when you're done, if you do play it, you might see like the first couple of areas do use like the kind of default assets where you can maybe see where I'm finding my feet. And then as kind of like time goes on, the game goes on a bit, I've started to like introduce resources and assets I've picked up on Steam and Itch,
Hmm.
integrated them, put my own personal kind of spin on the environment and the wider world, that kind of thing. So, and I think that's kind of quite nice. Like even when I go back and look at it, I can kind of see the kind of progression and how I get more confident with the engine and doing more stuff with the engine, because it starts off fairly basic, but by the end of it, like I don't know how granular you'd like to get, but I can do some pretty cool stuff using the engine, which I didn't think was possible at the start.
Yeah, yeah. A couple things before we dive in. I got some questions for that. I'm connected with you in the middle of the night for me, but you're located in London. Is that correct? Um,
No, Scotland actually. Up near,
Scotland.
I
Yeah.
live near Glasgow. I live actually.
Sorry. Yeah, yeah. So I was picking up on the Scottish accent.
Yeah.
Uh, I know you said, I think you said UK.
I said UK. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. I mean, I know that's synonymous for a lot of the folks across the pond.
yeah, yeah. It's my bad to assume.
That's
Scotland's
okay.
really
It's
cool.
okay.
One of my favorite movies is Train Spotting. So
Oh,
I got to pick up on the
I
movie
thought you were
or
going.
the
I
accent.
thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say Braveheart there, but Trainspotting shows that you're a man of culture.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
I don't know if I don't know if that's the particular part of Scottish culture that would really want to be marketing, but it is a good film.
Oh man, it's just just all around. I'd say anybody watch it, but yeah, yeah, it's pretty. It's an adult movie, but it's got comedy. It's got everything. Great soundtrack, just amazing soundtrack.
It does. It
Um,
does. It does.
but anyways, let's get back into Nowhere and Forever. So from what I'm seeing, there's two different views. We're looking at kind of a top-down isometric view, and then we're looking at like a profile view. Um,
Yeah. So like, those who are unfamiliar with JRPG systems, so typically the way that these kind of games play out is you'll have your party or your main character who walks about the world, basically
Hmm.
interacts with people, interacts with the environment, picks up stuff, does the
Hmm.
puzzles, does quests, that kind of thing. But then you've also got the kind of party management system. So like your main character will have allies in his party, and they'll have their own character classes, and then they'll have their own like skill progressions. So like for example, like the main character, his class is King's Guard. So a lot of his skills are based on combat and party support. So like
Cool.
as he kind of learns, goes through the game, his level will increase and he'll develop more skills and he'll unlock more skills. But one of the cool things that like I was alluding to earlier, like you can modify the skills in other ways. So like there's special quests that you can do to gain skills. There's some events in the story that will unlock skills, like a certain dire situation will happen and narratively, one of the characters will say, "Hang on, I've got the answer here," and then things will happen. So there's lots of kind of ways to kind of play it. But the main thing as well for the party system in the game, and I'm trying not to go too spoilerific here for anyone who does decide to play. That there's a point in the game where the party gains access to these particular items, and what happens is when you equip a particular item, that character will gain access to certain unique skills tied to that item. But the rub is that certain items are more attuned to certain characters. So, like, for example, if the King's Guard equips a certain item, he'll gain more benefit from equipping that item and gain the top skill in that item.
Hmm.
Whereas the other character, but then the trade-off is some of the skills on that item might be useful on the support characters. So you have to decide whether you're going to go all in on making this guy strong as possible, or you're going to balance the party a bit better and give the potentially needed skills to the other people. So it gives the player a wee bit of agency in terms of how to decide how they're going to build their party.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking at one image. It looks like a sword fight where there's two characters. But then in other images on kind of the profile view, I'm seeing a whole team. Um,
Yep.
is
So the kind of picture, the main title picture, so that's the two, I'd say it's the main protagonist and the main antagonist, so that's like a kind of classic face-off kind of pose. But obviously, no hero fights alone, so they're
Mhm.
all kind of with the party, and they've all got a role to play in the story. And that's probably, for those who kind of play this kind of game, the game style's nothing. I mean, I've tried to put my own unique spin on it, but at its core, JRPGs are not new styles of games. So
Yeah.
really, when you're getting into these kind of games, the real uniqueness about it is the story and the plot, and that's what I've tried to put the majority of my energy into developing. Because like for me, that's for this kind of style of game, that's the most important thing to tell is to try and tell a compelling story that motivates the player to want to find out what happens next.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, you don't have to go full JRPG to tell a story. JRPGs, that's story plus like, some a
Yeah.
lot of sophisticated gameplay there. But that only makes it better. Um, so when you know, without doing any spoilers, when you first start up the game, to bring me into the game. Like, who are you? Where do you spawn
So
into?
So when you start the game, so this is actually one of the kind of the main points of feedback I've had. A few people actually said that they felt the introduction was a wee bit long, and I
Yeah.
timed it. It was only about 3 minutes, which
Hmm.
I personally didn't feel was too long for a story game. But I definitely am open to maybe discussing that with folks if they don't agree.
Yeah.
But when you start the game, there's a bit of an introduction about there's backstory with the main antagonist. He was basically like he appeared centuries ago and he was like a threat to the world and he was going to like take over and rule with an iron fist, etc. But then a hero who in the modern day, as in the timeline of the game, is unknown to everyone. They just
Hmm.
know that there was an unknown hero. This hero uh, found a mysterious sword in the warlord's dungeon.
Hmm.
It felt powerful. They took it, and then when they confronted the warlord, a entity escaped from the sword and consumed both of them.
Interesting. That's
And
cool.
they both disappeared. But as far as the world knows, the warlord was defeated. But
Yeah.
then as the plot starts to unfold, things become apparent that realize that maybe the warlord wasn't quite as defeated as they think he was. Um, but and then the narrative is basically about how the party learns more about this and starts to take steps to fight back against this and defeat him once and for all. That's the aim. But then as that happens, what I've been finding is I've had a rough roadmap for the story planned out, but as I've been kind of developing the characters and things, um, some new ideas have kind of kept my mind, not to change the plot, but to kind of add wrinkles to the story, just to kind of make it a wee bit more interesting and layered, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Um, so do you have a like? Is this a fictional world, like a totally a fictional world? Do you have a name
Oh yeah,
for
yeah. So the realm of a whole is called the Kingdom of Glade. So I've got
Blade?
like
Cool.
a few kind of like so like the hero's main base is Castle Altair. So I kind of looked into kind of ideas for naming that. So like Altair is like this the star in the night, I think. So it's like I thought that was kind of like a nice symbolic name. But also as well, other things like that. I'm trying to no pay fan service, but like I've got a lot of other franchises that I like, and like, I've dropped some names in. So like one of my characters, for example, is called Tally. She's from Mass Effect. Like I'm
Cool.
really a big fan of that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And like the main character, Elam, he's from Deep Space Nine. I'm going back a wee bit there.
Hmm.
So like just stuff like that, like we references here and there. Some stuff's original, but like I'm getting my little tributes in there while I can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you mentioned, let me see if I get this straight. The a warlord comes to power, and a hero spawns, and the hero finds a sword. They battle, but they both get eliminated.
They
Um,
both get captured. They both get
they
captured,
both get
basically.
captured.
Yeah,
Yeah, without any
yeah,
spoilers, that they get captured. And they think that the warlord was defeated, but
that's right.
turns out that the warlord is actually still alive, and then so he must return, I imagine.
So he is able to basically operate from where he is, and I can't go into more because that's a very big plot point. But
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
the idea is that he is not dead, which I think is clear from the kind of the whole setup of the kind of picture and things. But
yeah.
it's all about finding out the how and the why and the how can we stop him. That's the kind of thing. But then obviously you get the question of the thing that captures him in the sword. Is that a threat as well? So there's that. There's like the kind
Interesting.
of multifaceted thing. And then
Cool.
other characters who come into the party later have got a vested interest in other events that are maybe not necessarily tied to the big bad, but then become entwined in that story as well.
Yeah, yeah. Um, man, I love with an RPG like this, always like a sword with a curse or magic or like everything
I know
involving that. So
it is a bit of a cliche, I know, but I mean
I
some
don't think
cliches
so
are
at
cliche.
all. I
They're a
think you need
cliche
it.
for a reason. It
Yeah,
works.
yeah, yeah.
Cliches are cliches for a reason, for sure.
Yeah, you need it. You need it. Like it gets people pumped up. So your character, your main character, is not the first initial characters. Um, and then who is your team? Because I'm seeing kind of a team.
So the initial team is like a three person team. So like there is more party members that come.
Yeah,
So the initial party members are Elam, who's the kind of captain of the King's Guard, and
yeah,
you've got Odan, who is also a King's Guard, but he's like Elam's right hand man. He's like the kind of the number two. And
hmm,
then they work with the alchemist Tally, and they basically kind of as most JRPGs tend to be, you don't the main character doesn't start with the aim to go and fight the big bad. It's
hmm,
like business as usual for him. Like
yeah,
he's like as a King's Guard, he has duties in the kingdom, and his first mission is basically to complete one of these duties, and then in the carrying out of that duty, things happen that then they
cool,
realize, hang on, there's a problem here,
yeah,
and then the kind of thing, the puzzle pieces start to kind of fall into place a bit.
yeah. So I'm not super familiar with, I think, the type of JRPG that you're talking about here. Is it kind of a turn-based combat?
Yes, so like kind of like if you think of it, it's in terms of the kind of classic Final Fantasies, it's quite similar in style to, let's say, Final Fantasy seven, I would say.
Hmm.
Maybe nine is definitely not eight, because eight is like a kind of resource based system. So like it's the way it works is when you start a battle, you have what's called the active battle gauge, and then based on your character's agility, so some characters have got a really high agility and some don't.
Hmm.
Your turn bar fills up at the appropriate speed based on your agility. And then when it's your turn, you act. So then you can use one of your skills. So like you can attack, which costs nothing, or you can use magical powers, which just use magic points. So some characters have got like special, stronger attacks that consume magic points to use.
Hmm.
There's also a third resource called soul charge points, which basically means when you take damage or you use certain skills, you gain points in that. And then those unleash your kind of most powerful attacks, and they're often combined with mana resource or even health cost as well. Some cost health to use as well. And the items that I mentioned earlier as well, they're also very closely tied to the soul charge resource. And the top skill in those items always consumes all of your soul charge. So like soul charge is a attribute that doesn't persist between battles, like health and magic. Although there is one character who can persist their bar when you, that's like each character's also got like a special ability, class ability. So like for example, that character retains their soul charge points between battles. Like Elam, for example, he has an ability to automatically counter a physical attack and deal damage back to the opponent. And the Alchemist has a chance to reflect magical attacks.
Cool.
Other characters, for example, later on who get introduced, like so, like I talked about how each item confers abilities based on their class.
Hmm.
One class has the ability, he gains all the abilities no matter what item he uses. He's got like versatility. And another one has got the ability to automatically regenerate magic points every round, that kind of thing. So like, I've tried to kind of make each class unique as well.
Hmm.
Um, and I've actually got at the point that I've developed up to the game, I've probably got two more characters to introduce to the party, and I haven't quite decided fully on their mechanics yet. I know conceptually who they're going to be, what they're going to look like, but I'm trying to offer variety as well for the player because sometimes in JRPGs, a classic pitfall can be just press attack, but every area, like the kind of random enemies get more powerful, so you do need to use your skills and not just click attack. It doesn't really work like that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, try to introduce variety where possible as well.
Cool. Cool. Um, yeah, I'm wondering the state of the game is what would you say? I'm interested obviously in the itch version. It's playable currently on itch as but greatly in still in development. Is that what you
Yep.
say? Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd say in terms of percentages, it's maybe about 60% complete.
Yeah.
Like based on what I've got planned for the story. So one thing that I'm bogged down is the wrong word because I'm enjoying the process, but I'm at a point where I'm developing a city for the game,
Hmm.
and there's so much you need to consider. Like you need to consider the maps. You also need to consider like the environment, like the weather and stuff like that, and then
Yeah.
also things like NPCs. So like you want to make sure you strike a good balance of having enough NPCs to make it feel organic, but also not so many NPCs that you feel crowded out.
Hmm.
Then you've
Hmm.
also got to consider like side quests, side areas, because obviously you go to the city and there is a plot piece to complete in the city, but you want to have more to offer in a JRPG. You want to
Yeah.
have like loot to find, quests to find, tasks to do, that kind of stuff. Because these gain resources and experience. But I mean, it's kind of fun. You can implement some fun stuff. So like one thing, so without going into too many details, it's a steampunk based kind of city. So
Hmm.
like it's all about like there's a lot of clockwork elements in the kind of the graphics and the kind of layout. So one thing that I knew that I wanted to build without uh, doing too much of the kind of the plot stuff, I wanted to build a kind of a train system that kind of went around the city. So working out how to do that was quite fun. So like in each district in the
Cool.
city, you can walk up to the cart and you can access it, and then you can pull a menu up that says go to places X, Y, Z, and then you go in, and then your character vanishes, and then the train goes away. So coding that was all a bit of fun, and testing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't fun when I went into the cart expecting to go to one place and ended up in another, but that all works quite well now. So like it's again, it's about giving the player more agency, because you can walk around the whole city. That's definitely possible. But I equally know there'll be players who'll be like, "Nah, I'm not feeling that. I'm just getting in the car or getting in the train."
Yeah.
And going through it that way. So just things like that, just be fun. And it's also from a developing point of view, that's the fun bit, like learning what you can do and what you can't do in the engine. And when I started in the project, that kind of thing would have really intimidated me. But I've got a good level of comfort with the engine now. So like that kind of thing, I seen it as a challenge that I was ready to take on.
What engine are you working with?
So RPG Maker MZ. So
Oh, cool.
basically, like at its core, it's like an HTML application. So like
Interesting.
the way it works is like when you like say for example, I wanted to like trigger a cutscene, you can do it to either run automatically, or you can do it when your character hits a certain space on the board. And then things will happen. But the real power of RPG Maker is in its plugins. So like again, like I was saying, it's an HTML application. So it runs on all the plugins are JavaScript. So because it's all web-based things, these all get run client side. So if you want to do a particular action when something happens, that all gets processed at the point where the JavaScript runs. So that's where the real power and customization come in, and that's the kind of the real test of what you know and what you can do and what you can't do.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, your goals currently are to get players playing your itch version right now, get feedback,
Yeah.
kind of get some attention for this, and then what's your final goal with this? Are you planning a Steam launch
I,
or?
I would love to get onto Steam. I've looked into it. I mean, I should specify. I'm not wanting to put it onto Steam to make a bunch of money. I'm going to like sell it for $1 or something. Do you know what I mean? It's more
Yeah.
of a case. It's more of a case of I've made a game that's got on Steam. Do you know what I mean? I know it's just that gets like a bucket list kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if I get people who've never met me or heard of me, who pick up my game and play it, then that's mission accomplished, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it's I don't know. It's just like kind of some people want to write a book, some people want to like do a movie or something. For me, this is kind of like my Everest, personal Everest. You know what I mean? That kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah. 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 I bet. I mean, that's good to hear. That makes me want to play it more because sounds like you're just doing it purely like out of your own passion,
Yeah,
which
yeah, that's
makes
it
for
for
a good
sure.
game. Um, okay, let's shift gears a little bit, and then we can come back to it later because I like to get into a little bit more about you and who you are.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously, you're living in Scotland. You're born and raised in Scotland.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, born and raised. I live. If, for those who maybe know, if you may have heard of uh, Loch Lomond. I'm quite near there. I quite
Yeah.
live near that area, so that's quite a nice part of the country actually. When it isn't raining, rains a lot, unfortunately.
Hmm. Hmm.
Occupational hazard of living in Scotland, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, it sounds a little familiar. So when did you first get into games, or when was your first video game? When
Oh,
did you, you know?
so my oldest brother is well, I say much, he's about 14 years older than me. But I remember way back in the day when he brought back his first Windows 95 PC. I don't know if you remember when you used to shut down those PCs, you'd get a big warning that said it's now safe to turn off your computer, and you press the big red power button.
Yeah.
That's kind of when I started kind of getting into games. But well, actually, I would say it was before that because he had an Amiga as well.
Hmm.
So it was stuff like Eye of the Beholder, Monkey Island, that kind of thing. So
Oh
like, probably
yeah, yeah.
showing my age a wee bit there.
No, no,
But
no.
like
Those games are
all
awesome.
the way back, yeah. I mean, I had a Mega Drive and stuff, or I think you would call it a Genesis if I remember right. But all the way back then. But like I liked the PC gaming and I liked the Amiga gaming, that kind of thing. That was kind of more my bag. So like
Yeah, yeah,
the first game that I remember like putting a lot of time into was probably the original Command and Conquer, first one. So like that's I mean I played other games before that, but that was the first serious PC game that I started
yeah.
playing back in the day.
I didn't
And
play that one,
I
but
actually met. I managed to beat the Nod campaign before my brother did, and he was raging about that.
Right on.
That was good.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, I played those old Sierra games back in the day, like King's Quest, the Quest for Glory,
Ah, yeah, remember
probably
that?
all those.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it was the same thing that got my start. Um, yeah, so you're, you know, the the seeds are being planted at that age. Then, are you? What do you currently do outside of making your own games? Like,
So I work in IT actually, and I've
mhm.
actually been trying to use some of that knowledge to kind of help my process. So like one thing that I've set up, and again, this has been fun stuff to learn as well.
Yeah,
So I, I'm a big fan of automation, and what I mean by that is so like. At our core, I think developers are lazy. And what I mean by that is if there's something we can repeat, why are we repeating it manually? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
That
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So like, what I've actually got now, as well as developing my game, I've got a process now that I can double click one batch script. And in that batch script, what happens is I publish builds to itch automatically using Butler.
Cool.
I can create an APK that also gets uploaded there to get downloaded. I
Hmm.
publish a web build to GitHub, and I back up my files to Google Drive all with one click. And I now do that. Like I was only doing that like every month or so because it was such a tedious manual process. But
Yeah,
now after every session, I run that batch and it does all my backups and publishing for me. It's like the lazy man's dream. So
yeah,
like again, because I work in IT, like I've got kind of decent like PowerShell and batch scripting experience, that kind of thing. So bringing what I know from work to the table to kind of make my life easier a wee bit.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Did you move straight into IT, or do you have a did you go to college for
You,
something else and then went into IT?
I did that. I went to uni to do computing. Because
Yeah,
like I say, like I got the bug. It wasn't just the game I was interested in. I was interested in the PC as a whole at that point.
yeah.
That kind of
Uh-huh.
like sealed my fate, so to speak.
Hmm.
My first job at uni, I had to actually move down to England to get some work there because like you know what it's like when you come out of university or college, like you can't get a job without experience, but you can't get experience without a job. So
Hmm.
you had to kind of go where the work is. And then
Yeah,
after doing a few years down there, I was able to get some experience and then come back up to Scotland, and I've been here ever since, really.
yeah, yeah. You studied computer science or
That's right. Yeah,
just
computer science. Yeah,
um, so you so you had the basics of code ready to go
yeah.
straight from college.
See,
So
yeah, see, I wouldn't say I wouldn't even say I'm a strong coder, but I've got a good understanding of like the theory and science behind how code works. So in my day job, I don't write a lot of code. I write some code, but most of my job is troubleshooting and debugging.
yeah,
So like for example, like I'll get like a thing that's broken, and I'll need to go walk through it and find out what's happening. So I've got good analytical skills in that sense. So while I maybe can't churn out or crank out a lot of code, I mean I can when I need to like for my game, but like I've got a good overall understanding of logic and how it works. So like I feel comfortable in my support role, you know.
yeah, yeah. Um, as I'm putting this show together and each episode evolves, I'm trying to figure out what exactly I want to do with this show, and I realize that everybody that I interview, you're all kind of very very close to the first step for anybody that's interested in making their own game. So hearing
Yeah.
your where you were and where you are now, um, in that beginning stages of going from it just being a dream to like actually doing it. I think that the audience is like really interested in that stuff, and I hope that this show can inspire people that are sitting at home right now thinking, "Ooh, I want to make a game, but
Oh yeah.
nobody else has ever. I don't know anybody that's made a game. I don't." So, hearing your story and
What what about you? What got you kind of into the field? What kind of inspired you?
oh, I mean, I've been working in games for like 15 years or something, but I mean, I was just an artist. I came from the art side of things, so I was drawing since I was like 5 years old, and then that evolved into studying art. I went to the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and and then that led to being a concept artist, and then the concept artist led to everything else in games, and it's sort of a it's not it's not as I think it's inspiring to a certain type of person, my story, but I don't know how, like, my story sometimes intimidates people a little bit. But
I don't know about that. I mean, like it's two sides of the same coin because you're saying like you're looking at me in a technical background moving into games because some people who work in a technical background are not creative, I would say, and I don't mean that as a criticism, but like a lot of the time, like coding is unless you're coding something fun, like a lot of the time you're coding numbers and spreadsheets and stuff like that. It is a
yeah,
bit soulless sometimes. So like I don't know, I think you're maybe doing yourself a bit of a disservice there because like doing the creative stuff and that is the fun bit, and I think that's natural to maybe want to make the leap into doing the kind of gaming flow. So
well,
I can understand both sides of our coin. I would say I think both are, I'd say they're both the kind of classic gateways in. Actually,
yeah.
I'd say that they're
One thing I could say is that I could be really inspiring to artists that would like to take the next step into being a game developer. You know, they're really strong on the art side of things, but they don't know the first thing about code. Um, my story can be like, look, you can totally learn code. You know, there's a lot of
yeah.
misconceptions to artists about what code actually is. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was just some weird. I thought when like you see Einstein writing on a chalkboard, writing out like crazy math equations, I thought that was code. You know, like before I actually like. And then I looked up some video. I was like, "What's code?" And then someone was like, "Well, it's just a series of instructions
Yeah.
that you're just when the computer does
Thing is,
this,
well,
do this."
yeah, for people who are kind of intimidated by code, I mean, there's never been more resources available at your fingertips to doing it. I mean,
Yeah,
and what I would say as well, some languages are scarier than others. Like, if you're listening to this and you're interested in getting into coding, my wholehearted recommendation would be to look at something like Python, because
yeah,
Python's like there's a lot of good resources for it. It's not okay, it's no programming isn't easy per se, but in terms of the complexity and difficulty, there's lots of resources on Python. It's a good one to get your feet in the door and
yeah,
get a conceptual understanding of what a programming language can achieve.
yeah,
Because it's good to get like the basics of like your logic and your flows and your processes before you have to start worrying about like graphical engines. That's a whole other beast. There's whole
yeah.
other libraries for that stuff, you know.
Yeah,
So yeah, there's never been a better time to get your feet wet in terms of
I
programming. So don't be
yeah,
discouraged for sure.
I totally agree. And there'll be a lot of talk of like, oh, Python's not real. You got to go with like a C language, like C plus plus or something like that. But it's like that's if you're really passionate, you'll find your way to C plus plus or even lower.
Yeah,
But Python will teach you the core of what you're going to need. Yeah,
concepts. That's the
yeah,
thing.
the
Yeah.
concepts. Yeah. Um, so that kind of gives me an idea of you on the technical side of things. How about the art side of things? What
I am absolutely hopeless. So almost all my assets have been purchased. They're either default assets or they've been purchased from Steam or Itch. I cannot draw worth a damn. Where my creativity, I think, is like I was saying earlier in the story. Like I used to play a lot of like RPG, like Cthulhu or D&D or
hmm
that kind of thing with my friends. So like, I
hmm
can write a story, do that, no problem. That
hmm
comes effortlessly to me. I can do that. I mean, whether it's any good or no, I'll leave up to the audience to interpret. But I mean, in terms of like making one up, that's easy for me. I can do it no problem. But I've got the artistic skills of an amoeba.
yeah,
I can maybe draw a passable stickman. So all my assets have been purchased because I'm hopeless. For some reason, I've looked at tutorials, I've tried to do it, and it isn't clicking. As I'm saying, I would say that programming is a more tangible skill to learn than art because art, like, I'm going to say art, I mean drawing and graphics because like that's like very intangible. What I mean is like you can draw a picture and you can go, I'm going to have him posing this way with this weather effect, and it's like it's the vision to achieve that kind of thing that I struggle with. It's like I see a drawing, and I'm like, how did he even come up with that concept? Like
yeah.
that's like a big blocker for me as well, you know. So I've got big respect for artists as well, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing is that you're passionate about a certain style of art and genre of art that is lends itself to a lot of detail, a lot of complicated things to draw. So it's one of the most into like this would be starting with like C++ plus plus or something like that if it was code, or even lower.
Yeah.
Like if I'd say someone wants to go into a programmer wants to start doing some art stuff, I'd say, do a use UI driven, like very minimalistic, very designy, just blocks of color type thing to begin with. Ease yourself into the art. Don't go full lore and RPG and crazy details like that. But you make it work with the assets that you have, and
Well, we're very lucky. I mean, like there's a lot of talented artists and stuff on Steam and itch, and like what I would say is there's a wide range of stuff out there. So like, I mean, for most of the kind of concept, I mean, what I would also say as well is sometimes like I'm open to like being influenced. So like the Clockwork City, like I was saying, for example, like that was actually I knew I was going to have a city, but I didn't have an idea for the aesthetic or the appearance. And then I seen some asset packs, and I'm like, that's the one. That's the
yeah,
one. So
yeah,
I looked at it and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And I went all in on it. And I've kind of, no, mate, it's obviously not my assets, but I've put the kind of the spin, I've got the lingo and all that kind of thing in the NPCs. So I've kind of went in on that. So like that can also be like I think like good art can inspire, you know what I mean? So it's definitely influenced me in a sense.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm looking at the time, and it looks like we're kind of reaching the limit that I like to hit. We're moving to kind of some closing arguments, or closing statements, or anything that you want to share before we wrap things up.
I don't think so. Just like thanks for your time, and just if anyone's listening, I would really appreciate it if you would check it out, even if just to criticize, because all feedback is good feedback. But yeah, hope this has been informative, and if you do decide to check it out, I hope you enjoy. Thanks very much for your time and for checking it out.
I like to ask, if you've watched anybody play your game. Um, if you see like is if you see anybody struggling with anything, if there's anything you want to clarify for anybody that pulls up the game first thing, anything you want to tell them, like the place they might get stuck.
Yes.
um,
So what I would say is a few of the people who tested the game. So like for example, when you leave the kind of starting area and you go in the first quest, you get prompted to go to a different area just to explore. And
mhm,
like the core of JRPGs is do that because there's a reason the game prompts you for
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Because I got a lot of people who were like, oh, the first area is quite tough, and I'm like, well, are you in the first area? And then it turns out they're not in the first area; they're in the
yeah,
second area,
uh,
and it's like it's kind of like it's just to kind of steer you away that, but you know. So like just make sure you're reading the dialogue and listening to what the cat because the characters will steer you where you need to go. Basically, that's the best advice I can give you. And the other thing as well is with classic JRPGs, if you're at a bit where you're stuck, you can always grind and gain your experience. And I know that's a terrible word, but like in the early levels, grinding is fast, so you
mhm,
don't need
mhm,
to have too many battles, and then you should notice an improvement.
yeah, 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 perfect. So if you guys are if you're challenge if it's too challenging too early, you may have missed the where you're supposed to go, so turn around, go back, do some grinding, get ready. um, Okay. Yeah, it looks awesome. Everybody, I'm going to put all the links in the description. This has been Liam with Nowhere and Forever, and go check it out. It's a passion game. He's not trying to make money. I think it's the real deal. All right. Thanks, everyone.
All right, bye.